Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina, she voted against the latest COVID relief bill, saying it was never about COVID-19 relief. I want to get your opinion, if I can. Congresswoman, welcome to you. Thank you for coming on. About Mitch McConnell coming out saying it's unlikely Republicans are going to support this infrastructure bill. Well, Senator Ben Cardin, Democrat, also kind of tipped his hand. He was talking to Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg on a hot mic yesterday and said this. Watch.
But ultimately, it's going to be put together similar to how the rescue plan was put together. It's got to be at the end of the day, because you're most likely to have these reconciliations. Yeah, the Republicans will be with you for points, and then it's clear.
Conciliation meaning 51 votes, but Senator Joe Manchin has already said he doesn't think he's in favor of, infrastructure bills through reconciliation. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, we just saw how reconciliation worked. It was primarily a one-sided deal there where Republicans were not allowed to amend any of the legislation for the, quote, COVID relief package. And I can't think of a worse thing to do right now than raise taxes in the middle of a pandemic. Washington doesn't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem. And for decades now, we've been seeing our deficit and our debt increase year after year after year, and no one is holding either side accountable. And you talk about the corporate tax hike. We're in the middle of this pandemic. We're finally seeing some economic recovery. Jobs and employers are looking for employees. And if we hike the tax rates the way Joe Biden wants to, you're going to see fewer companies investing in fewer jobs and lower wages for every hardworking American. And we just can't afford to do that right now.
Are you astonished sometimes, Congresswoman, about how they're able to sell this to their constituents? I mean, President Biden talks about paying their fair share. We've done this over and over again. We've seen the studies, have been covering this for 30-plus years. And the tax brackets always have to expand because there's never enough money. And the middle class always ends up getting hurt by this stuff.
Well, we hear the buzzwords, right? Paying their fair share, taxing the rich. What we're going to do, I mean, who do you think pays that bill? Hardworking Americans pay that bill. That money doesn't show up out of nowhere, and that's off the backs of hardworking Americans. I look at like a state like South Carolina, where we have Boeing in South Carolina there. They bring jobs there because of our low tax rates. And what the Biden administration is going to do is they're going to see an exodus. These jobs are going to go overseas where there's a lower corporate tax rate for many companies that do business around the world. And that's not putting America or American workers first.
Yeah, your colleague in Texas, Congressman Lance Gooden, tweeted the following, and I'd like to get your opinion on it. He said, quoting here, biggest tax hike proposal since 1993. Texas migrant facility at 729% capacity. Gas prices up 30 cents compared to last month. More than 50 executive actions, 56 days without a press conference. Where is Joe Biden? Did he hit the high points?
Right. No, that's exactly right. He's gonna tax hardworking Americans and yet leave our borders open and hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants crossing our border into this country. It's enormously problematic for his administration, and I'm just astonished that this is what they're talking about and this is how they're going to operate. There are Republicans and Democrats willing to work together and do what's right for the American people. And we saw previous to COVID-19 and the Trump administration with the Trump Taxing Jobs Act that happened. We had record unemployment for every working American, regardless of the color of your skin or your gender. I know in my district in South Carolina, the unemployment rate was 1.86%. And in a state like South Carolina right now, because of our low taxes, we're hovering between 4 and 5% right now in the middle of a pandemic. We need to get out of this pandemic. We need to get people back to work, kids back in schools, and find ways to get millions of people who are desperate to get a vaccination and get our economy back on track.
If I can quickly just get your final comments on the breaking news we had a little earlier where, the DNI, the intel community saying that Russia did interfere in the election, did denigrate Joe Biden's campaign to help President Trump. They did not go after the political infrastructure. 15 seconds on that, Congresswoman?
Oh, it's important. America's voting system is only as strong as the voters' belief and confidence in the system. So we need to make sure that we investigate all these instances of potential fraud to the furthest extent possible.
South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Trace.